Hey guys, I did finally finish all April pages in my reading journal and I can share them with you now. I did join a reading challenge called Realm of the Readathon, in short Realmathon, hosted by Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy here on YouTube. I will link her channel down below. RyeMi is a team-based readathon where 4 teams battle each other out. We could gain positive points for our realm, but we could also attack one of the other teams. It was my first readathon and it was so much fun. And I was so excited to be taking part in it. I read a lot, and I mean a lot. For me at least. I usually read from 2 to 5 books a month, but this time I read 18. Yes, 18 books. Partly because I was homesick for over a week and I read quite a lot of shorter books, but still, 18. This will be my record for a long time. I did not make any cover page for April, which I probably should, but anyway. I made a spread for all the book covers and it looks so good. The book covers were supposed to be glued in order of finishing individual books, but I reordered them to look better in last minute, of course. Next are statistics. This is the spread I am most excited about and I spent forever figuring it out. First, I made the reading timeline where I sorted all the books by the year they were first published. The oldest book is from 1890 and it is The Picture of Dorian Gray. And latest one is, of course, newest Brandon Sanderson's Secret Project 2. I will try to go over stats quickly, and if you do not care about this, there will be timestamps, so you can just skip this part. I promise I won't be mad. As I said, I read 18 books, which counted up to 5,596 pages, which makes average of 3,010 pages per book. I did convert audiobooks to page count too, just because I did not have place for that many various statistics. In reality, I did read almost 3,000 pages of physical books and listened to almost 99 hours of audiobooks. Maybe I should just write it down somewhere on the page. I gave 2 1 stars, 1 2-star rating. There were 2 3-star books, 1 5-star, and the most were 4 stars, 12, but many of them were 4.5 or 4.75. I do use Storygraph for more detailed ratings, and it would be just too much to make it that detailed here, so I just opted for regular 1 to 5. My average rating for April is 3.81 based on my Storygraph ratings. For genre, I did count 2 most prominent ones per book, so numbers do not align here with the number of books I read. Most of the books were fantasy, 46.7%, then romance, 16.7%, horror and classics were 13.3%, and science fiction, 10%. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but it does to me. There was 1 non-fiction and 17 fiction books. And honestly, I am surprised I read even 1 non-fiction book. %22.2% young adult and 77.8% adult books. There is the author section. I did read 8 books by female authors and 10 by male authors. And 90% were new to me authors. Only 1 I read from before, and that was Brandon Sanderson. I listened to 6 audiobooks, read 1 graphic novel, 1 ebook, and 10 physical books. 16 books I bought this year. One I read from my old shelf and one was gifted to me. Well, at least I am reading what I'm buying, right? My library looked tragic up until recently, so yay for me. I was getting lots of books recently. And finally, last are book length stats. From the physical books, 7 were less than 300 pages, 4 were from 300 to 499 pages, and 1 was longer than 500 pages. From audiobooks, 1 was less than 8 hours long, 2 were between 8 to 16 hours, and 3 were longer than 16 hours. The longest book was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. And that is all of the statistics. That was a lot. I made an entry for every single book I did read in April, even for the ones I did not like. I started with all of the Brandon Sanderson books and short stories, just to have them out of the way because I read 7 of them. The Elemental Metal and the Hope of Elantris were nice and I did enjoy them. The Elantris though, oh man. I did listen to an audiobook. First I tried the dramatized audio, but I could not hear a sentence over the music. So I returned that one and went for classic audiobook. It was 10 hours longer than dramatized version and I hated it. Sorry. I know it is well out book, but I just couldn't. I think the audio version highlighted everything wrong with it and it was not a pleasant experience. If I was to read it again, I would for sure go for a physical book. As time passed since I read it, I do not think it is as bad as I first thought, but still not my favorite. The Emperor's Soul is very loud novella and I find it okay. I think it was way overhyped for me and thus I expected more. Still 4 stars, which is very nice. I started to be more strict with my ratings and 4 stars is great. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England was a nice read. It is both fantasy and sci-fi and if you get the chance to read physical book, please do so because the illustrations are so nice and cute. Next is Mistborn Secret History and oh my, I did not expect this to be that good. It tells us what happened with Kelsier after, let's say, Mistborn Book 1, and it even answered few of the questions I had after finishing this series. I recommend to read it right after Mistborn Series 1 because you still remember stuff. Warbreaker was one of my favorites in April. Unexpectedly, it is a story about 2 sisters who are princesses. The God King, one of them, has to marry. There is also lesser god who does not like being god. And an immortal with sentient sword. And there is magic that has to do with breath and color. And there is a possibility of war and I enjoyed it so much. Now, finally, book by someone else. I read Iron Widow by an author I do not dare to say their name because it for sure would be not said correctly. Iron Widow is a story where giant transforming robots are piloted by both boys and girls. Only girls are in a bit of a rut because they are the ones being sacrificed in battles against mecha aliens. It is a lot, I know, and I did not probably explain it the best, but just read synopsis on Goodreads, on whatever, I don't know. We follow a story of a girl who wants to revenge her sister who died in one of those fights, and there are also 2 boys, one awfully rich and another a prisoner. There was way more romance than I expected, and the main girl was annoying AF from time to time, and the writing was a bit clumsy. It would be a solid 3-star read, if not for the last quarter of the book, and I won't say more. I gave it 4 stars, by the way. Next, my first T. Kingfisher book and the only book I gave 5 stars to. I maybe would not give it 5 stars now, but at that time and place it was a perfect read for me. The story follows Mara, who decides to save her older sister from a tyrant husband. It has dark elements accompanied by humorous writing, and I loved the banter between characters and the bits of romance we got. It was an enjoyable read, but please look up trigger warnings before reading it if you think there might be something you don't want to have in your books. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry, another very well-loved book. It is cozy and cute fantasy romance about an orc who wants to hang up her sword and open a coffee shop in a town where no one knows what coffee is. It took me a while to get into because the writing was a bit challenging for me, mostly in the beginning, but it got better. Just a heads up for anyone who, as I, is not primarily English speaking. It got 4.25 stars from me because honestly I was getting a bit bored by the end. The pictures I put in here are from Pinterest and I could not find the artists, but when I do, I will put links to their signs in the description. If you know who they are, please let me know. Next are Six of Crows and Cooked Kingdom by Lee Bardugo. I loved these books and gave them both almost 5 stars. I did not care much for the heist, but I adored all of the main characters and their banter, their relationships and their often dark past. I did not read the Shadow and Bone trilogy before reading this, and there was no need. I only watched the Netflix show, first season, and it was more than enough. I could imagine how the characters look like from the show, which was a nice bonus because my brain cannot process character descriptions, and I often just follow various blobs in my head while reading. Also, I was so scared to work on this spread because I wanted to make these books justice, and while it is not amazing, I like how it turned out. Next is a bunch of classics and graphic novel I had nowhere else to place. We Have Always Lived in a Castle by Shirley Jackson is an old classic and I did not like it, so I won't talk about it. The Yellow Wallpaper is even older one, but I enjoyed it much more. It is a story of a woman driven mad by enforced confinement in a room with yellow wallpaper and barred windows after the birth of her child. It was a short and interesting read and I hope to read it again maybe a few years later. Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke is a collection of 10 letters by an older poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, to a young aspiring writer, a student at military academy, who sent him some of his verses to assess their value. I enjoyed some letters more than others and I am interested to see if that changes with time. Lore Olympus Volume 1. I liked it and I have Volume 2 coming in the mail soon. Maybe most controversial will be the next book. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde was my least liked book of April. Yes, you heard it right, my least favorite. I was so excited to read it, but it just made me angry and bored. Incredibly bored. Everything that is well known about this story is quite enough and everything else is just pages long, boring monologues with few nice quotes here and there to trick you, you might actually like it. I don't know, fight me. It was a big disappointment. I know it is well out classic, but it was not for me. And you know what's great? Everyone can have their own opinion, so please do not come at me in the comments. Also, did you notice that despite the fact Dorian Gray is supposed to be extremely beautiful and blonde, book covers are exceptionally hideous? I hated my cover and I was putting it face down every time because just no. And the last book, oh my god, it will be soon over. The last book is Babel by R.F. Kuang. It was my first R.F. Kuang and first Dark Academia book and I loved it so much, even more after some time passed and it all settled in my mind. While I gave it 4.75 stars, it was for sure my favorite read of April. I was hooked from page 1, and even with concern about the language and whether I would be able to understand it, it was such a nice read. I did need to use translator a few times and it took me longer to get through a page, but I enjoyed this story a lot. Every time there was a bit of a slowdown and I was starting to think I might get bored, there was a twist and I was pulled right into the story again and again and again. I rarely reread books, but I wanted to reread it right after I finished it. I think that says a lot. Also, there is a better and longer review of Babel and more of my April reads on my Goodreads and Storygraph pages. Links are down below. Now I just need to fill in the reading tracker. I waited so long to do this. I did get to 28 books this year already, which is way more than expected. And I can also fill in book bingo. I read few of less than 200 pages long books. Many were published before I was born. I read one graphic novel. Dorian Gray was the one book I owned but never read. I read one non-fiction and good book, bad cover goes for Warbreaker because I do not like any of the covers. Okay, so that was my April in books. I hope you did not get absolutely bored as I did with some of those books, and I hope to see you soon. I will be doing May reading journal video too, because I did join another reading challenge. So if you do not want to miss that, please like this video and subscribe to be notified when it comes up. Have an absolutely awesome day. Bye.